Hello and welcome to Clay to Canopy, the show where I attempt to make just about everything from the ground up. Today's episode, I am going to be converting this little model I made a long time ago into a cat house. First, I'm going to be taking some measurements. For every inch that I measure on the model, I will be multiplying that by 4, so I have 4 inches for every inch. So, here we go. So the first thing I'm going to do is cut out my 4 sides. And I'm going to need 2 at 20 by 16 and 2 at 20 by 18. Now that I have my pieces, I need to spend some time marking out where all of my openings are going to go. So these are my short ones. These sides are marked with a W and an S so that I know which one is the short side and which one is the wide side. I'll mark out basically the opening. I'm going to expand since this is for the cats. They like to have really large opening. I also need to see how tall my second story is. My second story is 2 inches on here, which means it's 8 inches on here. So I'm going to go ahead and set this for 8 inches. Okay, these are my 2 shorts. And that is the top. Second story. Okay. Back to the door. So I am definitely going to cut a much larger door, but I need some of this for some structure. I'm going to take all of this off. For the door opening, I measured in 3 inches from each side. So I can have a nice big door. And then up on my second story, I continue to transfer my measurements for the windows from the model onto my wood. Okay, so I'm going to be removing this. There's going to be a big bay window here. Alrighty, that's one side marked up. I'm going to continue on doing this process for all 4 of my sides, and then it'll be time to cut out all my negative space. Alright, time to get cutting. For an easy way to remove material from the center of your piece, drill holes large enough for your jigsaw blade or your saber saw blade. I like to put 1 hole in every corner, it just makes it a lot easier. Using a jigsaw or saber saw cut from corner to corner. Be sure to clamp your workpiece down in 2 places to prevent it from wiggling and slipping on you while you're making your cuts. And I always try to use my bandsaw whenever possible. It provides me with a straighter cut rather than the saber saw or the jigsaw. Sometimes they can just have this raggedy edge, and you know, not that the bandsaw is even that perfect, but it's a lot better than the jigsaw or the saber saw. So, a long time ago, I had a bunch of wood, pieces of solid pine that were some old shelving, and whenever I come across solid wood, it's really hard for me to discard it. So I spent weeks cutting it on the bandsaw and just cutting out these thin pieces of stock that I often use for siding on some of my actual sculptures. So I will be using these to create the siding on this house, but I went through to try and find ones that were pre-painted with the white first. This is going to be painted up like a typical painted lady Victorian house, but I want to put in these little markers breaking up the top story and where the base starts off before the foundation starts, and so I will be putting in a white trim all around the whole house. So I went to find ones that were already painted white to save me some time, and I'm going to be putting these in first and then going ahead and layering on the siding. I'm installing the siding first because it's much easier for me to do this on a flat surface so that the glue can just kind of dry on its own, rather than me having this in a vertical position and then trying to somehow clamp on the siding. So one big bonus about pre-cutting these is that this is going to be the exact size I need for siding to come running up here. So I can use this as my guide to measure out for the rest of my pieces, and I'm just going to measure one on each to make sure that I have it as like a template, and then I'm going to label this front, and then I'll call this my right side. This should be the same if I measured properly. Front left side. Alright, so for this one, in this case, I can go ahead and glue these pieces down now because I've taken a measurement. Now these are just decorative. They're not performing any kind of structural anything, so just smacking them on here with a little bit of glue is all I need to do. Now while these are drying, I can go ahead and cut up a bunch of pieces that I'm going to be layering on here, and I'm going to be leaving those on the natural side because I want the natural side to absorb the colorant that I'm going to be applying, and this same exact thing is going to get repeated for all of my other sides. Boy, this tape is in terrible shape. I need to get rid of it. It got left outside, I think. To make my life easier, I'm going to bundle a couple of them together before I go over to the chop saw. That way I'm not cutting a bunch of tiny little pieces one at a time. And for this one on my left here, I think I only need a couple small short ones here, and then I hit a window, so I'll have to adjust my sizes there. Okay, so these are ready for the chop saw. I'll take those over. It just got super hot, and because of that, these ends are starting to wanting to pick up, so I'm just gonna clamp them down for a moment, give the glue a little bit more time. I was not intending on having to deal with clamping, but these things happen. I think the shorter ones are okay. I did a little bit of rearranging so that they're aligned with, I don't know if you can see it, that they match up. Because when I start laying in the siding, I want to make sure I have the ability to kind of butt them up against each other and make sure that the pieces stack evenly. While those bits of edges are drying, I'm going to go in and touch up what I can. And this is just some White House paint. I went with a semi-gloss. I will be dyeing the pieces that are going to go on top. I'll be using a fabric dye. Having a glossy surface here will just make it easier for me to wipe off any of the dye that might get onto this bottom piece. Alright, I'm going to carry on with my prepping of the small strips while this dries. Hopefully, by the time I have done, I'll be able to take these clamps off and touch up the remaining parts. I'm going to work off of these two because the other ones still have the clamps setting up. And I'm going to actually start on this one because I want to try and make sure that below each window I only take up 4 pieces, because this distance should be the same on all of them. When I assemble this, I want to make sure that all of my pieces of siding kind of land at the same point, which is why I rearranged these, because this is actually the corner that's meant to meet up here, and then those two meet at that corner and so on. And then fortunately, there's not actually a wall that meets there, it's just a little tiny bit at the top, so I don't have to worry about trying to match up those two ends. So here we go, I'm going to start with this one. Sometimes I'll use some of that blue tape just to tape the sides down while it's drying. You know, just throw some on just for the heck of it. Before I do that to this side, I'm going to line these up so I can make sure that these land in the right place. Sometimes just throwing a clamp on the top one can help also, because it'll hold all the other ones down. Either method works, you just do what works. Alright, well, I know that 3 inches from the bottom is where I want my 4 to land, so I'm just going to give myself some little bits of measurements. Why is that one so much higher? Because I measured it at 4, not 3. Sometimes I can get away with not having to do this with these clamps, but for some reason I think today's weather is not helping me out any, and they are demanding to be clamped down. Oh my gosh, you just rolled around in that sawdust and are covered now. Okay. Oh my gosh, you are coated. Coated. Look at this. Ugh. Sawdust everywhere. Shop kitty. So I'm going to go ahead and do up this side. My paint's dry. I'm probably going to need these clamps again. I'm going to continue on this process, going back and forth between all 4 boards and only doing, about 4 at a time, letting them dry, and usually by the time I've hit the 4th board, the first one's ready to go again. just testing it out here to see if I can make sure everything lines up properly before I continue on. So far so good. I'm going to go ahead and get some color onto these siding. Okay, this is leftover fabric dye. I dyed some fabric a couple days ago and I saved the exhausted dye bath, and it's really great for dyeing wood. I'm going to be applying to the bare shingles here, bare siding. I'm going to set these out to dry and do the other two. Alright, I'm going to go rinse out my brush and my cup and switch to a different color for the bottom half. Now that the color has dried, I'm going to be applying this sun bleached, it's a wood stain that I love to apply to things. I'm going to hold up these two pieces next to each other so you can see the before and after with the wash, before the wash. I'm going to repeat this for the other and then let them fully dry for 24 hours before I do anything else. So I decided that the inside of my house really needs some wallpaper, and so I have some different pieces of cardstock that have this Victorian-esque kind of feel to them, and I'm going to be applying that to the insides of my house and along with some crown molding before I assemble the thing. I'm gonna just measure. Look at that, that is perfect. Okay, I'm gonna trim this, and then I will be using some Mod Podge to apply it. Hopefully that'll be enough to make it stick. Don't have any wallpaper paste, not very popular anymore. Whatever happened to that wallpaper? You know what I think happened to wallpaper is it became such a pain to try and remove, which I have removed countless amounts of wallpaper in my time when I was young. It is not an easy feat, and I think that people stopped using wallpaper because we like to redecorate countless and countless times, and wallpaper is not convenient for that. Although I did see some new product that is vinyl, and it's supposed to be easily removable, so yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's the new thing. I am just using my box cutter and my straight edge here to cut out the inside of this paper. Okay. Perfect. I have just a clean painter's roller. I'm just gonna use to apply pressure. I should ideally have a rubber roller, which I ordered, but it's not here, and I'm not waiting. So I think what I do, this could be a complete and total mistake, but I'm going to apply some blue tape to the edges just to help hold it down while this dries. The terrible blue tape that I've been fighting to save. I think what I'm going to do is all of the bottoms first, and then by the time I get to the fourth one, I should be good to have set long enough for me to be able to at least peel back blue tape at the top to do the top half. We'll see, we're hoping. Alrighty. Which means I gotta make sure my paper sequences stay correct. That was number 2 for the top of that one. See, pretty little reminds me of fabric wallpaper, this Victorian fabric that I've been like obsessed with lately. This one's gonna require a bit of some matching like you would do with wallpaper. I think it'd probably be easiest for me to match against this line. So I'm gonna go ahead and very carefully cut my excess line. Now when you would normally do wallpaper, you would just let it overlap. But because this is cardstock and this is really thick, I don't want to see that seam line, so I'm only going to cut one and let a tiny little overhang. I think I'll do this first. Okay, I am going to carry on with completing all of the wallpaper, 4 pieces here, and then I will come back to show you the big reveal once it is done. Alright you guys, the wallpaper is on. This is what the inside of my house will look like once it's all assembled and stay. These are just some pre-made beadboard trim that I picked up at Home Depot, and I'm just giving it a coat of this kind of off-white color I found for 50 cents. It is flat, so after I give it a coat of this and it dries, I'll just go over it with a coat of that satin Mod Podge. Alright, so I went and cut up some pieces for this little box here that will be this side entrance, and I decided I'm going to leave this bottom half open so that this will be just another entrance that the cats will be able to go in and out of. And then I cut a 45-degree little bevel here so that it'll sit flush against this 2 ends of the sides of the house when I put it together. This is going to be like this with my 2 45s, my opening. But before I go and do all of that, I'm going to start applying my siding. I'm going to go ahead and assemble the front here so I can continue on with my siding. For the foundation, I made my own molds, and I'm going to do a completely separate video for this because it's a little involved and really needs to be its own standalone thing. After I made those molds, I then went and cast some cement into them, and that was what became my product that went onto the house. Alright, I got a bunch of little finicky, detail-y type of work that I'm trying to get a handle on. These guys I just made out of Sculpey. And then I got a bunch of trim. All of this trim is going to be put on around the windows. This detailed trim is going to go around the larger windows, and I have these smaller sticks. These were just these little craft sticks. They look like coffee stirrers, and these will be perfect for the smaller windows, so I have set aside some of these to also paint. Basically, I got a bunch of painting to do right now. Today I am insanely behind, and so I'm just going to pop my headphones in, got an audiobook, and get this trim on and this thing assembled. I'm not going to do too much commentary because essentially I'm just cutting angled pieces and gluing them on, and then I'll be just screwing together my box. So essentially today my goal is to finish up this base box so that I can go ahead and move on to doing these exterior components. So here we go. Alright you all, I am going to leave it here, and we're going to call this part 1. Please make sure you ring that bell so you can catch the remainder of this series. Thanks for watching, and hope to see you soon.